Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have, this guy is pretty amazing what he's developed um, to help our children in the school systems. You're not going to believe it. So do me a favor. I have the one and only Jason Polinski on the show. Do me a favor and share this out to everybody that you know. And let's get a bunch of people on here and learn how Jason and his team are saving lives and changing lives. So stay with us. Make sure you share this out. Appreciate you. All right, we're back. Let me bring Jason on the show right now. Here we go. Jason, welcome to Breakthrough Walls.
How you doing, Kent?
I'm good, man. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for the offer. I appreciate it.
Well, you and I met on X Spaces. For those not familiar with X Spaces, you should become familiar with them because you'll meet a lot of really, really amazing people there. Let's, I like to start with, letting the audience know where you're from, like where it all began for you.
Born and raised in Minnesota. Spent a little bit of my life in Colorado. Some family out there, but went to school all through the same school district. Went to college at the University of Minnesota Duluth for my undergrad. I got my master's degree from Hamlin. Got hired right at the ripe age of 23 years old in law enforcement, and kind of a through and through Minnesota guy.
So let's see who's the Minnesota. That's the Vikings.
That would be the Vikings.
You're a Vikings fan.
Yes, I am. It's kind of frustrating at times, but yes, I am.
I've been to Minneapolis one time in my entire life, and it was for a layover. I spoke at an event in Vegas, and it's a long story, but they were late getting there, and I missed my connection flight at 12 o'clock in the morning. And I had to spend the night in Minnesota. I was coming from Vegas where it was like 90 degrees. So I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and that's really all I had. And it was not 90 degrees in Minneapolis, like not even remotely close. In fact, it was like 30 some degrees. I'm like, this is crazy.
Actually kind of warm in the wintertime. We brought a bunch of guys up ice fishing from Florida, Texas. Never stepped foot on a frozen lake before in North Carolina, and it was actually I'm driving my truck out to the ice house, and they turned about 3 shades of white that I've never seen before. But it's fun bringing up Southern people up to go ice fishing.
Well, I'm from Ohio, so I just moved to Texas a few years ago. It's similar climate, not as cold, but it's similar. So I'm very familiar with several feet of snow and below zero temperatures, and I grew up running snowmobiles on a frozen lake, so
you know what it's like there.
I know all about it. But when you're not prepared for it, then yeah. So, and it was like in April or May or something. It was like, and it was freezing, and I'm like, what the heck? So you went through high school. Did you go to college up there?
Yeah, I went to the University of Minnesota Duluth.
Okay. And what did you study in college?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I started off, I love the outdoors. I've hunted and fished my whole life, and I wanted to kind of, you're always told at 19 years old, take what you love and try to make money at it. So I went into wildlife management, and then I realized there was a lot of math and chemistry, and I'm not smart enough for that shit. So I ended up going on academic probation my first quarter.
Oh my God.
And then lo and behold, I decided to take a class called criminology, and part of the class was to go on a ride along. So I went on a ride along with my instructor, Sergeant Wigman. He was a Duluth sergeant, and I ended up getting in a foot chase. And at the time, I was playing hockey and I was in really good shape. And he said, just stay behind me. So I said, okay. Well, we're running, and I'm like, Sarge, I can get this guy. And he said, get him. So I
Oh my
asked my sergeant,
God.
and I tackled him, and we got back to the car, and I said, I can't believe you get paid for this. This is fun. So I changed my major to go into law enforcement.
Oh my God. So wait, you had a real cop and you were just a student.
Yeah.
He said, get him. That's
Well, I knew him pretty well.
hilarious.
I don't think he would have sent. I mean, he was my professor, and he was a good
Yeah,
guy. Um, that-
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you got into law enforcement. How did that start for you? Were you working like on this patrol? What were you doing when you first started?
I first started. I did an internship, and the city that I did the internship with hired me. So now the city's about 75,000 people, um, about 75 cops, and you start out in patrol. And I worked my first few years dog shift overnights patrol. Um, about year 7, I think, I got selected to go and work in the schools as a school resource officer, and
Mm,
I did that for 3 years. Absolutely loved that spot, which plays in later to the story. And then I immediately got promoted to sergeant when I got out of the schools, and then I got selected to go be a team leader for our drug task force, which was county and statewide, and got back from that. I was a sergeant for a little bit, got promoted to lieutenant, and that's kind of where it sits now. But I've had the fortunate opportunity in my career that every 3 or 4 years I get to try something different in law enforcement. So I've kind of done the gauntlet.
that's pretty cool. I know a lot. When I say a lot, I mean I know a lot of cops. I did a lot of I'll just say technology work for the what's it called, the Ohio Narco, which is the Narcotics Officers Association thing. And um, I've been to the what is the annual convention or whatever they call it. I'm like, what kind of, this is a drinking convention. What do you got? I'm kidding. But I'm
No,
like,
you're not
what?
kidding. That's very. Was it Can Am? That
Huh?
was called. Was it Can Am?
No, it was their Ohio Narco.
Oh,
They have their own thing, and they have FBI and DEA and all these people come in for. But anyway, so I've seen a lot, and I think and I would imagine you can relate to this. I would like, it's almost like you can pick out a cop that's been around for a while. There's a certain look in their eye, like they've seen it all. You've seen it all. I know you have.
oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just, to be honest, over the course of the years, you do become jaded, and you do
Yeah.
become, maybe critical. You find yourself kind of thinking through things that most normal people don't even consider, and I
Yeah.
think it's just the constant repetitiveness of the ins and out of what law enforcement demands of a person.
Yeah.
It does change you.
Yeah. I- You know, I think, and the primary reason I wanted to have you come on today is you were talking the other night in a space about a system that y'all have developed to. Man, I hate even talking about this, to be real. But the school shootings. I have a 14-year-old daughter, And my God, that's the biggest nightmare of any parent. And you think about all. I mean, there's been one is too many, but there's been a lot. And so you have developed a system to help minimize loss in the event of one of these happenings. Talk about, if you would, before you go into what it is and what it does and how it does what it does. Talk about the reason behind this. I mean, it wasn't just like, hey, I think. I mean, what was the driving force behind coming up with this thing?
Um, Passion, I think, and it goes back to when I was a school resource officer, and I was in the school shortly after Columbine happened. So
Mm,
every day that I would go to work, in the back of my mind, I'm pretty much the first one if there's a list. I mean, I'm the only threat in there. And then you look out over the sea, and there's probably 2,000 students in the high school I was a school cop in, and you look out over the sea of children, and it's like you take that daunting responsibility. Like I I'm the only line of defense for this entire group of kids,
right,
and we were actually way ahead of the curve. We were doing so after Columbine lockdown was born, and we
right.
were doing lockdown drills in 2002. I started training cops on response back in 2002, and fast forward, Sandy Hook happens, and that one really, when there was dead um, elementary school kids, that's
Mm,
where I questioned, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? And I talked to a good friend of mine who we worked narcotics together, and he was a SWAT member, and we kind of said, nobody's taking the bull by the horn here. Let's take run, hide, fight and put it on steroids. The hide isn't working. I taught run, hide, fight for years, and I refused to teach it. And about 2014, I'm getting ready to do a presentation to a bunch of teachers on run, hide, fight. And my son at the time, who was probably 11, came into my office and said, "Dad, what do I do?" And I looked him in the eye and I said, "You run as fast as you can. Don't listen to your teachers." Well, that kind of an internal dilemma for me, because the next day I'm teaching something that is completely opposite what I'm telling my kid,
yeah.
because I knew and to this day, run, hide, fight is nothing more than fight or flight. So you look at the buildings and you look at the way the cops respond, and the common denominator in this is we don't have the right tools to respond effectively. So that's how it started, and we started brainwashing or brain um, searching on how can we enhance the building to enhance the response to the kids, the teachers, and the cops, because those are the
Mm.
stakeholders. So that's what we did.
I think about. I mean, like if I go to my daughter's school right now, I can't get in that school. Like not without standing in front of a camera. They scan my face. I think they have. I don't know. Somebody has to recognize you, or you have to really identify yourself. Um, I think about how in the world are people, because there are people getting in with ARs and all kind. I mean, how are they getting in these schools? Aren't all schools pretty secure, like what I'm talking about?
No, and even with artificial intelligence, there's ways around technology, and metal detectors, artificial intelligence, clear backpacks, facial recognition, gun recognition, all that stuff. All those have one thing in common, and that is they're not ever going to stop a bullet. That the tools that we're giving them aren't for the kids; they're for the administrator.
Mm,
And you can they're actually, the latest trend is AI, and we will not put AI in our system for the primary reason of it is not 100% effective. It's nothing more than alert, and it will never stop a bullet. So
Mm.
once AI recognizes there's a weapon here, you have to ask yourself, now what do we do? The gun's in, it's too late. Or if the facial recognition, who are they looking for at the door?
Right.
What are they scanning? Right. That's one thing. Obviously, if it's a student, well, a lot of students have been school shooters.
Right.
It's a stranger. So I guess what's the purpose of it? And then buzzing systems. Sandy Hook had a buzzing system. Tennessee had a buzzing system. There's evil that exists in this world, and they don't give a shit about swiping a driver's license. They both shot their way through the front.
Right.
If you want to do bad, you don't care about following the rules. So our system looks at those that don't want to follow the rules, and how do you take a school that is target rich and make it target less in 60 seconds?
That's yeah. So I think, and that's where you guys come in and really you really shine with your system. I wonder. I can share the screen. I think, and I could show your website if you'd like. And I think that it would be kind of cool for you to go through it, just to tell me where to click, and then kind
Sure.
of show people how your system works. Because look, um, this hits close to home for me. Having a daughter in school, and we're very active in that school with her and all the other parents. And I think that people do you think that people, like, what do they just bury their heads in the sand and pretend it's not going to happen? And I mean, what's the general consensus?
Hope. I think they hope it'll never happen here, and hope is not a good plan. And also, as far as burying your head in the sand, I've been personally involved in information that I wanted to go out to parents in the community of the good work that when I was a lieutenant overseeing our school resource officers, they're averaging 4 to 6 legitimate threats a year. And schools would be shocked how many of these threats are never really exposed. And we wanted to put like a year in review saying, look at the good work the school cops did and the principals did to make sure your kids are safe. And I was told at the time, this was probably 2014ish, we can't share that. We're going to scare the parents. Well, the problem with that is when the next referendum comes out, how do the parents know what to vote on if they don't know the truth? So yes, bury heads in the sand and hope it never happens here.
I was looking forward to this interview, but I was also not looking forward to it. I'm just being real with you. It's not something that I mean, it's and that's what makes you and anybody in your field. By the way, if I didn't say thank you for your service already, thank you for your service. It means the world to me. Um, but it's not, I just don't think that this is a topic that people want to think about or talk about. Yet I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about.
The only time it's talked about, and I wrote an article a while back called Wash, Rinse, and Repeat. And you can go back, and certainly since Columbine, you can see a trend that our nation does. You'll have an incident, take Sandy Hook or Uvalde, or take any one of them. You have an incident,
Yeah.
you have thoughts and prayers, then you have a couple days of grieving, then you have a call to action from parents to do something. Nobody knows what to do because we have not defined what to do. And then it
Mm.
turns into a gunfight for the next 6 months until the next one happens. And it's been that wash, rinse, and repeat for almost 30 years. And we as adults are the ones hurting our children because we are too opinionated. We can't make up our mind, and we just want to fight about guns. And our system takes guns out of the conversation altogether. It's not a political matter. So it's we the adults need to step up and be adults, stop fighting about stuff. And if you look out at the rest of our society, we've defined fire safety, we've defined car safety, we've defined water safety, we've defined everything safety and security except safe schools. We still don't define it because one district might have a camera system and AI and they call that security. Another district might have a visitor management system and window film and they call that security.
Right.
There's no consistent definition across the board. And the wrong minds aren't being asked, what do we do? And politicians and architects are answering that question for us right now.
Yeah. Kind of pathetic, in my opinion. I'm going to pop your website up on screen here and go full screen with it. Talk about what people should be looking for on your website here.
It's the only approach that looks at this from a multi-leveled approach.
Okay.
So what we've noticed is everybody tries to fix what just happened. So Uvalde, because he came through the back door, the whole country's blown up on single point entry. After Sandy Hook, it was visitor management. After Parkland was visitor management, single point entry, and we keep focusing on that. Tennessee front door, but there's also a lot of shootings that started within the school.
Right.
So you can't look at what just happened. You have to look at the building as a whole. So much like a fire suppression system, um, I'll go through this real quick because it actually was kind of mind blowing when I came across it. But the fire suppression system the code was written in the early 1900s. It sat
Okay.
on a desk until 1958 after 95 children died in a school in Chicago called Our Lady of the Angels School. So you have this document sitting there that I'm guessing that nobody believed in, but it took almost 100 kids to die for them to say enough of the deaths from fires. We're going to activate the fire code in Chicago, and it branched out after that. When we were creating our system, we were looking at kind of, well, what if this, what if that? If the gun starts here, if the first shot's here, how do we? And we ended up with a multi-layered system. And you kind of took a 10,000-foot view and you look at a fire suppression system, it's the same thing. They look at the whole building, no matter where the fire starts. They have tools to put out the fire, contain the fire. It's a keep it simple, stupid response for the teachers, the kids, and the firefighters.
Yeah.
Not one kid has died in a fire in this nation since the fire code's been implemented. It was the multi-layered system, and the fire code defined fire safety. So our system is the same, just a different threat.
Now, for the fire code implementation in a school, I'm sure it's not free.
No, but people, that's the one elephant in the room. How much is it?
Right.
And it's an
And I'm
interesting
bringing that
question.
elephant up for a reason
Right.
because it needs to be. I love your logic, and it's true. I love what you said it the other night.
You have to put the cost into perspective. And keep in mind, we didn't start this to get rich. We started this to save kids' lives, period.
Right.
And enough's enough. So I've been when we went out for the first referendum with a public school of 16 schools, they were asking, I think it was $23 million for a swimming pool. And then they asked $16 million for security, which was our system. Our system was less to outfit every building in that district than one swimming pool. And you look
Holy
at
crap.
like a new football field. You're looking
Yep.
at, if it's artificial turf, $5 to $7 million.
Yep.
Well, we have districts across this nation that'll go out and ask for sporting facilities, no questions asked. But where are your priorities? I mean, to me, if you're an education leader in this nation and your number one priority is not the safety of your kids, please find a different job. Period.
Amen.
And I say
Amen.
that with passion because I've seen the mindset a lot of these educational leaders. They It's almost like they're afraid to even dive into this discussion. Like it scares them, but you can't fix it if you don't address it. And like again, I believe that if you come into a school, your number one job is to create a safe learning environment. Period. And then go get your fun stuff.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree. And I would imagine that there's my wife who's very active with our school. Um, well, you just got a new lead because you got to be in our school system. I mean, on our foot here in Texas, like, our football stadium, I think was in the 35 million range just for the football stadium. I mean, it's bigger and nicer than a lot of college campus football stadiums. And I'm not aware of your system being in our school system. So, and I know there's school systems here that they've spent $90 million on a football stadium, like on a football stadium. So, and I just think that this is a prime market for what you're doing to help our children. My God, honestly, it would be. I don't think there's a parent um, that would watch this that would say, "Yeah, no, I'd rather have a nice football stadium than my child to be safe." That would be insane to me. Like, uh,
And I'm not saying you can't have both. I'm saying prioritize it first. Let's get the safety first,
yeah,
and
I
then let's
agree.
look at the extra stuff. And
Yeah,
I grew up playing football and hockey. I'm all about sports. Sports are great for children. It teaches them a lot about life,
yeah,
and it's important. But if you have a Uvalde that happens, your football stadium ain't going to matter from that point forward because you didn't do everything you could. And I think Uvalde is up to 27 billion in lawsuits right now. I mean,
jeez,
it's destroying. It's literally it's a community destroyer, and
that's
we got to.
insane.
Yeah,
It's
it's
insane.
and that's my frustration. If our system was in Uvalde, there's not one child dead.
Oh
And I
my God.
I watched that just going. Well, think about it. I'll give you what happened, and this might be kind of the easiest way to do it. So, suspect, and I won't use his name. Suspect kills grandma, I believe, at the house. Tells a girlfriend in Germany he's going to go to a nearby school and shoot it up. He gets in a car crash. Just before he gets to the school parking lot, some people come out to help him, and he starts shooting at them. Then he goes to the front parking lot and he starts shooting rounds into the building. That's when the first 911 call came out. So there's your stopwatch. 2 minutes later, he goes to the back of the building and he's coming in a back door that was left open. He goes to the first door, goes in, and it was an adjoining classroom, so it was double the kids. And basically, you have a barricaded suspect with hostages. And I will not go into the police response. You can probably assume my thoughts on how they acted, which was bullshit. But
Mm.
I think I just said it. But if you put,
You did. You did. You
if I
said
put,
that out loud.
I know. Oh well, I got a month and a half left. I don't care. If you put our system in there, that first shot, rather than a 911 call, would indicate a button being depressed. That button sends a message right away to dispatch. So cops are started. It activates an alert system both inside and outside of the school. So the entire building knows that they need to take action. And lastly, it's going to activate 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure in that space that button was hit. So now you've just secured everybody in that spot. When he goes to and so they hit that button. They had 2 minutes before he made entering that door. With our system, I've seen 2,000 kids go into complete lockdown with cover, concealment, and communication in 60 seconds.
Wow.
So plenty of time for that whole school to get secured. He comes to that back door. I don't care if that back door is open. Come on in. He goes to that first door. He's going to interact with 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on the door. All the kids are behind level 7 ballistic panels that pull out of the wall. They're installed in the wall. You've created cover. A bullet cannot go through there. You've created concealment. He can't see them. You've enforced the door. You've enforced the glass. And he's not getting in that door. He's not shooting through that wall. Every child in there is safe. And again,
Wow.
within a minute. And if you look at a school, it truly is a target rich environment. By that, I mean, it's fish in a barrel. You know,
Yeah.
how do you take that target rich and make it target less. And what do the kids need? Well, they need cover, they need concealment, and they need communication. So it's all the magic in the world and all the alerts in the world
Yeah.
are never going to stop a bullet. So we're not giving the kids the tools when they need them the most.
I want to. I got to do a quick break for our sponsor, but when we come back from this, I want to open up the website and kind of get into that a little bit because Ann, I have some questions about how long it takes to install your system and all of that stuff. So everybody, stay with us. Here's a quick message from our sponsor, and then we're going to talk about installation time and everything else. Hey, Ken Walls. I use New Calm every single day. Check this out. It has changed my life. It'll change yours, I promise.
If I had to describe New Calm in only one word
is not enough to describe Newcom, but if I had to pick one, I would say love.
Power. It's power. Life-changing.
Welcome to the New Calm family. My name is Jim Poole. I'm the president and CEO of Solace Life Sciences, the neuroscience company that makes New Calm. It is an honor, a privilege to welcome you. You're in for a treat.
So with your system, if let's say that a school system, and North Texas is growing like crazy. They're building schools. They can't build schools fast enough, actually. But let's say that somebody says, "Hey, we want your system installed at this school or in this school system." Number one, do you know an approximation of the investment, or does it depend on the size of? I suppose it probably depends on the size of the school and all of that, right?
It depends on the size of the school. It depends on the architectural layout of the school.
Okay.
A lot of schools have kind of an open concept, which I think is horrible. A lot of schools have more of a traditional concept, which I believe is the best direction to go. But the design is going to obviously impact the cost. The districts that we installed, like the two high schools in the district, they house about 2,300 kids apiece. They're small campuses, and the two big schools were around 2 to 2.3 million. And then you go down from there. It all averaged out to, you can do an elementary school. It might be 750K. It just depends on a lot of factors, but to be honest, it's less than a fire suppression system.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. One of my business partners owns a fire suppression company, and he said it's cheaper than what he does.
It's also cheaper than having to attend your child's funeral.
Yeah, and that's, I hate using the term, but I would bleed an artery out for my children or your children.
Oh my God.
I don't, a lot of us who want to serve, you take that oath and you take it seriously. And it just, to me, why are we talking about money? It's our children.
Right.
In the same breath, you're putting in a $23 million swimming pool.
Right.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So if somebody wants to learn more about this, I'm going to go back to having your website up here. So it's 3dresponse.com. I'll put that up on the screen here in a minute, the website address. But talk about where they would find out more information on here. Is it this video? Is it where do they go?
The front page is basically just an intro, but if you go to our system,
okay,
it'll actually, and go to the top one. So we don't just look at the parts of it. Prevention and risk management. We have a member on our team who owns a mental health clinic, and her office just takes in homicidal, suicidal children that are court ordered because they've committed a violent crime. So
Wow.
this team, and she has 60 counselors that work for her, they strictly deal with violence in juveniles. And you have to have the right prevention team in place when you're talking to children on what to look for. And that this was important to me because when I was a school cop, the biggest thing that I learned was creating relationships with the kids, with their families, and that alone can be a game changer. But when you see somebody that may be homicidal or suicidal, you might need a resource, and that's what we provide. And then if you scroll down to
Wow.
the next part of system, it'll be the actual system.
This here?
Yep.
Okay. Active threat mitigation. Okay.
So that picture, that's my business partner. What he's doing right now, that's actually, we call it a pocket door. So 99.9% of the time, that door is sitting in the wall, and all you really see is a handle. So when we create the system, we get a lot of people saying we don't want the school to look like a prison. Well,
Right.
you can't. We take great pride in you can't see the 7 or 8 different layers that they're hidden. So if something happens, you pull out this wall, which is a level 7 ballistic panel, and then the wall behind it is level 7 ballistic. And all of a sudden, you've provided cover and concealment to every child in that classroom. You've stopped the bullet.
Wow. And
At,
how does that, so is that near the door, the entryway that blocks them from entering?
that doesn't block entering. That just provides cover. And yeah, we look
Okay.
at thresholds. We protect the rest of the building. So you can take if you stand in a hallway and you look in a classroom, you can probably see 90% of that room from a window.
Right.
We take that 90% and drop it down to about 25%.
Okay.
So we're cutting out vision, but we're cutting out vision with ballistic materials.
Got it. Yeah. Wow. So somebody can, I mean, obviously it's going to be different for every school.
Yeah.
And I assume that if a school administrator or whoever is interested in this, you're going to, do you personally go visit the school to talk to them, or how does that work?
Yeah, I will, or somebody on my team will go visit because we have to do a cost analysis.
Yeah.
We have to do the design and figure out, and get them a dollar amount.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we actually physically walk the building. We get blueprints, and then our team of almost 100 years of first responders and educators sit down and we design customly for that building. So it's not a
Wow.
cut and paste from building to building.
Right.
It's a very tactical approach to securing the building.
That is really amazing. Are there other people out here doing things like this? Probably not on the level
No,
you're doing it.
no, we're the only ones so far, and I learned the patent process. That was fun, but we just got our patent approved last November, and through the patents office, there was no hurdles or any problems with any other system like ours.
Wow. And where's the best place for people to, well, I mean, obviously you're on X. So everybody should definitely be following you on X at, I'm going to
3D
scroll it here. And
responses.
what's that?
3D response S.
Yeah. And your website is 3dresponse.com, right?
Yep.
I'm typing it in. I'm not looking at the 3D.
One thing that we don't show that most people get a kick out of, and we don't show it for a reason, but if you look at Adam Land, Tennessee is a great one. So that girl, boy, whatever it was, comes to the front door, shoots the glass open, and then basically has free reins in the school. And by the way, the cops did a phenomenal job in that response.
Yeah.
But if you had our system in there, again, it's a complete game changer because that person goes into the vestibule, the glass is protected. The people on inside of the glass that are managing the buzzing, They have cover at their presence as well. And again, would be tactically designed by us. The person comes to the front door, shoots the glass doesn't fall. They hit their police button, notifies the whole school. Within 60 seconds, all the teachers get their kids cover and concealment. They start to dispatch from the command center that we create where the intruder is. So now all the teachers can hear, we have somebody that's trying to shoot their way in the front door. That's really valuable information for teachers, because if you're talking the run, hide, fight thing, the biggest complaint I got was teachers saying, how do we know what's going on? So after they start breaking that glass, they can hit another button. We call it suspect identification system. And when that button's activate, it's going to drop a lot of bright yellow powder that's going to take away their ability to see into the school. It's going to mark them bright yellow. So now when the police arrive, they can say the suspect's been marked. Now the police are looking for who was in bright yellow. And then when the cops arrive, if, say, she got in and continued, they're going to turn their attention to the police and they're going to start to dispatch the officer. So the officers will hear something like, officers, I see you, come through the front door. When you get in the building, you're going to want to take a right, go up the steps. The suspect is on the second floor. So you've taken a massive building, and right now officers are going in and they're looking for blood, screams, gunshots. It's all like, what stimuli are we have to find stimuli. With our system, it's a Google map. They walk you right to where the suspect is. And we've trained over 70 cops on this part of it alone, on the response from the police side. And every single cop that walked out of there said, this is a game changer. We watched the amount of time in an elementary school to find a suspect from 4.5 minutes drop down to 40 seconds. That's a lot of time. So our system is very complex, and it's a system, and people buy security objects or items.
Yeah.
We need systems.
Yep. I agree with you 1,000%. And for the people out here, again, I have the benefit of having already heard your thoughts on this, but I'm going to bring it up for everybody else to hear it. There are people they get on X Spaces and other forms of social media, and they begin to pontificate. It's one of my favorite words. Pontificate about how every teacher should have a gun. Every teacher should be carrying and be able to fight back. So, what are your thoughts on that?
You broke up a little. The question is, should teachers carry a gun?
Yeah.
It's a big bag of worms. The conversation, and people are so passionate about it.
Very.
If you really dive into the whole concept of it, it's more complicated than what people think. I'll just throw out a few concerns I have. Number one is, are we going to give teachers qualified immunity? Law enforcement every officer would probably give up their badge if we lost qualified immunity. Basically what that is they can't come after you civilly. So if we're giving teachers these guns, and even if they responded perfectly, they can still be sued personally.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. The other one is, have we asked the teachers? I've asked a lot of teachers, and the majority of them don't want anything to do with it. They signed up to teach. The next one, and people kind of don't really consider it, but are we going to give them less lethal? So you're asking this teacher to stop a deadly force situation, and all of a sudden the deadly force isn't there anymore, and you're standing there with a gun. Are we going to give them pepper spray, a taser? They have to be able to go up and down a continuum based upon the threat they receive. Are we going to train them in jiu-jitsu and gun retention? One of the best things I ever learned in life was, every time you go to a domestic or every time you go to a call, there's always a gun there. It's yours. Don't effing lose it. I've been in a few fights where I've had people trying to get my gun out of my holster and fighting somebody, and and with one hand on your holster is not an easy task.
No.
Then it goes into marksmanship, qualification, insurance. If anybody really wants to know if this is even doable, call an insurance company, and
Right.
I think you're going to get your answer. The other, it sometimes too, if you put yourself in the cop's shoes and you're responding to this, and you see somebody with a gun and you just walked over 2 dead kids. I mean, we're not trained to give verbal commands, drop the gun. You're a threat.
Right.
So you might be putting the officers in a bad spot. And then just the physiological response to that much stress. I was in a shooting. I experienced the tunnel vision. I experienced the time slow down, the loss of my fine-tuned motor skills. You get this stress dump and you don't know how you're going to respond. And I've seen teachers just in drills sit in a corner and start crying, or just lock up and freeze. It's that fight or flight kicks in.
Yep.
The other thing too is I've done, I think, 4 mental health checkups in my career. And what I've learned, I also oversaw our mental health team for years. I learned that a lot of mental health issues don't manifest themselves until like late 20s, early 30s. So you could have a 22-year-old very healthy teacher, and at 29 they could be schizophrenic, and you don't know it. So are we
Right.
going to tie that into it? But my team sat down and we literally have a page and a half of concerns with that topic. So when the topic comes up, I wish people would really look into it seriously. I think there was a kid in your school, a security guard left their gun in a bathroom, and a kid found it
In
in
my
your
school, in our school,
in your state.
I don't know. I haven't heard that, but I think that I personally think, I mean, I have a friend who is, an SRO here locally. And I have friends in Ohio that are SROs that, they love these kids. I mean, literally, they just, most SROs have a real like passion for helping children.
Yes.
And I don't think that most school resource officers would support every teacher having a firearm. I just don't.
I think
I don't see that as a reality.
best response that I can think of is a system like ours that provides the stakeholders the tools,
Yeah.
and a licensed school resource officer in your building.
Right.
Now you have the
Yes.
best of both worlds. So you're looking at providing with a cop in the school. I could tell you there could be 60 shots when I was a school cop going off. I would never hear it. I'm still responding to an incident. But
Right.
in that moment, that you've just given them the tools to respond to it. So you're looking at buying time. So
Yeah.
can we lock these kids up safely for 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Yes, we can.
Wow.
And I don't care how many guns are in the school. Is the good gun going to be where the bad gun is when it's
Right.
needed to be there?
That's right. I agree. I agree, man. Everybody watching, please share this out and get the word out to every parent. Ultimately, it's going to come down to parents are going to make the decision to put your system in, with enough pressure. I promise you, I know, with enough pressure on the school board, on the administrators, on the superintendents, on this is something that can be implemented and save a whole lot of kids. And it's I look at it as, nobody wants to use automobile insurance. Nobody wants to pay for it. I don't, and nobody wants to ever have to use it. But boy, it sure is nice to have if you ever need it. And this is even more important because this is your child we're talking about. This is the safety of children. So, personally,
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure, absolutely.
We took it one step further up here in Minnesota. I had a phone call from a state representative a couple of years ago, wanted to see what we were doing. So I gave him a tour, and after the tour, he looked at me and said, "Why isn't this in every building? Why aren't you guys?" I mean, we call it drank the Kool-Aid. Once he saw it, and he's young, he's 26, so he's not that removed from being in school
Right.
himself.
Right.
And unbeknownst to me, the kid is a bulldog. He calls me in like 4 days and said, "I wrote a bill for you. I want your system in every school in the state." And
Wow.
I'm going for it. So this was 3 years ago. He wrote the bill. I don't know if you've noticed, but our state is kind of whatever.
Yeah, you have a governor that unfortunately his name sounds similar to mine. I hate that.
But anyway, so he writes the bill. This year, finally, we went, and our first committee hearing was with the Education Committee at the Capitol, and that passed unanimously with bipartisan support. So this Friday, it's actually going to the floor.
Wow.
And basically, it's going to be a law that any new building, any retrofit of 15% or more, or any add-on will have to have a multi-layered system in it to protect children from firearms and weapons.
So I have a really dumb question, I think. Why in God's name wouldn't 100% of all schools in America have this system? 100%, not 100. It should be a must have, every single school.
There's been, I call it an invisible wall that I've come across during the political process. You get so far and all of a sudden you're just left baffled with what's going on. And I'll give you an example. The author of the bill wanted me to get a letter of endorsement from a group like Moms Demand Action. So I reached out to the local chapter. I gave 2 moms a tour of our system, and they loved it. They said, "Absolutely, we'll write a letter." They write the letter. I give it to the author of the bill. He brings it up to the other side of the aisle, and he calls me and says, "I just dropped a nuclear bomb on them." He was asked, "How did you get this?" And he shortly thereafter got a phone call from the national chapter saying that we respectively retract our letter. And he said, "Why?" He said, we're neutral on this topic. And so he goes, "So let me get this straight. Moms Demand Action, who's supposed to be keeping kids safe, is neutral on a bill that'll keep kids safe." And they said, "We retract the letter." So it made me think that kind of, is that part of the invisible wall? Do they really not want to do this? But you'd think an organization that touts of keeping kids safe would be all in favor of it. So that's what I mean by, there's just been some moments through this political process that I've seen that really make 2 + 2 is not equaling 4.
Okay, I'm gonna start dropping F-bombs. I'm not going to do it, but how in the name of everything holy can any adult on this planet politicize the safety of our children? Like, that is the most insane shit I've ever heard in my life.
Well, think about it, Ken. It goes back to the wash, rinse, repeat. Where do all those conversations end up at? Gun control. It's been a 30-year gun control fight.
It's insane. It's just insane.
And we as parents, and I'm a parent, we need a paradigm shift in the way we look at keeping our kids safe. And
I agree.
What we used yesterday didn't work. It's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
It's just over and over and over again. And that's what our system is. It's the first time an approach or response looked at it from the stakeholders' point of views that actually is tactical.
And it works.
Yes. When I tell you Uvalde, there's not one kid dead, I mean it. Parkland, the first 3, they own the element of surprise. But once that first alert goes off and you can take your school back, you can minimize the number of people being hurt after that point. Once the surprise is done, take your school back as fast as you can. Because right now they own it until they say it's done.
Is there a video on the website that people can watch that will help them
Yes.
understand what we're talking about here?
If you go to, can you pull up my website again?
Yeah, let me do that right now.
So go to In the Media.
Okay.
And there's a Care 11 article in there that is probably the most descriptive. It's not the whole system right there, Care 11.
Oh, here. Okay.
Yep. The suspect spray is not in there, and a couple other layers are not in there, but that's probably the most descriptive overview of the system.
Oh, okay. I'm not showing that. Let me share this tab. So here it is. When they click on it, they get it opens up to this page here. So okay, that I'm sure shows a commercial prior to the thing. So
It
we'll
might.
yeah. So wow.
So hopefully
All right.
Friday
So
goes well, and I think of Minnesota. I told a lot of the representatives and senators, like, you guys have an opportunity to put Minnesota on the map here.
yeah.
I think it'll be the first time the response has been defined in a law.
Have you been to any of the schools where shootings have occurred?
We were flown down to Tennessee the day after the Tennessee shooting happened, but we didn't go in. We were flown down. A private school wanted to talk to us, and our phone rings after something happens. That needs to change.
Yeah,
We
I
should
agree.
do it when it's quiet. Get in front of it.
It goes back to the when do they put up a traffic light in an intersection after enough people are killed at that intersection, unfortunately. You know,
And that's just the way people are. We're responsive, and we need to be more proactive.
So final words. We have 2,000 people watching right now.
Holy shit.
What are your final words to all 2,000 people watching to get to wake them up, man? I mean, we got to wake people up. This is freaking insane to me.
So be vocal. I really do think educate yourself on what your definition of security is. Do some research. And if your school says that they're going to go out and they're going to buy metal detectors, ask them, well, how is that going to help my kid? You know, if we're not giving the tools to the kids and the teachers and the cops, it's not a system. Quit buying devices and let's get a system. Talk to your state legislator. There's a bill written for it. They can easily adopt the bill and get it going in their state. But if you're a parent, I urge you to question what they're doing to keep their kids safe. I question you to question them if their top priority is truly the safety of their children. What are you doing about it? Challenge them, because they like to be right all the time. But if you can come in there with a little bit of knowledge and question them with facts, you're going to make things turn. And we started this grassroots. I think to get this going is going to be grassroots too, because the political world is a mess. It's been 3 years to try to get this bill to pass with the top of keeping kids safe. That's unacceptable.
That's unbelievable.
Certain things in our world we shouldn't have to wait for. So that's my advice, or my call to action is educate yourself, challenge your school leaders with facts.
Totally agree. I wow. And like Darlene Eaton says, amen. Everybody watching, please go to X and follow Jason on X. It's scrolling across the bottom. His handle is at 3D, the number 3D response S. Look him up, give him a follow on X, go to the website. which is 3dresponse.com. And if you go to In the Media and scroll down to the KARE 11, that's where you're going to find the best video to see this system in full, pretty much. And go check it out. Check out everything. Follow this guy, and reach out to Jason. I know you're very open to people reaching out to you as well. So
Yes, I am.
reach out.
Unless you're a swatter.
What's that?
Unless you're a swatter. I had to make you laugh. Sorry.
Yeah. If you're a SWAT. Holy shit. Oh my God. Don't.
My bad.
Don't do that. You probably don't want to do that to him, I'm telling you. So, but anyway, dude, thank you so much. I consider you a new friend, and anything. I have a lot of friends with big podcasts. I think you need to get this message out to a lot more people, because this is important. These are chokes me up, man. These are our kids. Stop politicizing the safety of our children and get this shit done. Like,
Yes.
We have helicopters that pick people up and freaking fly them to hospitals in the event of a bad accident. Like, let's move like that on this. We need to move like this is an emergency. We got to get this done. So, Jason, thank you. Thank you for spending the time with us. I'm going to wrap up and end the live stream, but I appreciate you. I really do. I appreciate your service. I appreciate this system, everything that you're doing to try to change the world and save our children. Thank you. I mean that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So everybody, make sure you're following Jason. My wife just followed you. So thank you to everybody, and share this out. Let's get this info out to everybody that we can. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Jason.
No problem.